red button. Ooh, we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome and happy Friday. Listen, our guest today is a phenomenal entrepreneur, actually stagingpreneur, and here to, I want to talk about her latest book, which is all about staging and the behind the scenes. But it really, we're going to have a discussion that goes really deeper and really kind of covers any kind of business, really. If you're any kind of a solopreneur, entrepreneur, etc., Jennie's going to touch on some things, some really words of wisdom through her many, many years of success and struggle and really just, you know, everything coming out at the top and excelling in what she's doing. And I think you will find some nuggets. I know you'll find some nuggets no matter what you do, what you sell, what you promote, etc. So without further ado, Jennie, welcome and thank you so much for being my guest.
Thanks, Kat. Glad to be here. Hello, everybody.
So let me give just a brief bio for Jennie for those of you who don't know Jennie. Oops, my rock fell. Okay. So Jennie is the chairwoman of IAHSP, which stands for, it's a long one, International Association of Home Staging Professionals, which I am happy to be a lifetime member. She is also the president and CEO of stagedhomes.com, where I got my initial training and also went on to get my master's training with Jennie in Denver. She does global training. She's the CEO, chief visionary of Sensational Home Staging in Denver, Colorado's most awarded and credentialed home staging company. So if you're in that area, hook up with Jennie and Sensational Home Staging. To date, she and her team, now I'm telling you these numbers and then we're going to kind of debunk these numbers because it's not necessarily something you need to go after if you don't want to go after. But just so you know the credibility of this woman, she and her team have helped over 6,600 properties, took their best staging over $3 billion in real estate since 2002. And I know you don't mention it here, Jennie, but you've started up two companies in two different states and, of course, has exceeded. She's won too many awards to actually list and is an industry leader in staging. And so with that, okay, Jennie, I do have to ask, you put here 6 kids. I thought you only have 4 kids.
Well, so we sort of took in the two, my niece and nephew.
Okay, and I had a feeling. Had a feeling you adopted them.
So they're like, yeah, they're like our children. I mean, they're here, so we're parenting them. They're young adults, but we're helping. So they fit right into the mix.
Sometimes more painful than giving birth through the loins. Yeah. And Jennie is a most recent, possibly Jima of a little baby girl, Twyla, who is 1 month old. And congratulations to you and to Lauren and to the whole family for that. So all that to say, you need to listen up again, whether you have a staging business or any kind of business, because we're going to touch, we're going to dive right in, Jennie, because, you know, like your show, we try to keep it now at 30 minutes or so. If we go over a little, it's not a big deal. People can fast forward. And just a little plug at the front end here. We are now on all podcast formats. So if you don't have time to watch this and you want to do it while you're traveling, it's on any podcast platform. It's also going to be loaded up to our YouTube channel. It's actually live on our YouTube channel right now, as well as LinkedIn and 2 areas on our Facebook under Tada by Kat and Kat Trelinos. So you can find it anywhere and watch it or hear it anywhere. And Jennie, you are our 90th episode. And I think Jeff probably on the post will put in some clapping and fanfare
right.
For YouTube. So let's jump right into the first point that you shared, Jennie, and that is to be true to yourself and never compromise who you are for business. Now, you know, for folks especially starting out, you know, this is a lesson, you know, and myself, I'm going on 12 years, but you know, I think anyone and everyone starting out, you know, you want, whether you're a realtor, a designer, a plumber, whatever, you're so hungry for the business that you just kind of, you do compromise yourself, right? In your business and who you are. So speak to that, to our audience to help, you know, them glean some of your wisdom on that.
What you just said is really true. We tend to, when we first get started, want to do, you take on any client. And then as you start going along, you want your clients as a relationship for a long time. So then you have to ask yourself, do I really want to be in business relationship with this person? Do they have the same values that I have? Do they have the same, attitude towards life and so forth? Because there's people that are excited and positive and ones that are not. And so, you learn these things along the way. And I think the way, if you're new in the business, or even, it doesn't matter if you're new or not, if you're thinking like, I have never done this before, write down like what your core values are. That's really kind of where this starts. What are your core values? And then that will help you identify who are the people that you want to have as a client. So it's not just about getting a high producer or somebody that has a lot of properties. It's, do you enjoy working with this person? Because it becomes this give and take relationship with the agents, with the investors and so forth. And they really rely on you. And so you really, especially when they may be asking for special concessions or favors or what have you, I'm more inclined to want to do that when I like the person versus when I'm.
But you know what, Jenny, I know you laugh at that, but sales 101, and I come from a long, like 40 years of just primo selling, training, etc. But 101 selling is that your relationship needs to trust, know, and like you. And that goes for the entrepreneur, solopreneur. You need that as well. Because, part of why anyone chose to be in business for themselves is to have, of course, flexibility, control, to have your values. And that is so critical to know your core values. I think so many people don't take the time to really be still and go, well, what are my core values? For me, like one of the things that's a trigger for me right up, because I'm huge on the big C, communication. And in our job, in any, I think, business, communication can be key. In ours, it's probably even more prevalent because there are so many people in the mix that you need to communicate with. And if you're not on the same communication level, like if in the very beginning they ghost you or don't get back for 6 days or don't, give you the information that you need to help them, that might be a signal, if it's part of your core values, that, maybe we're not a good fit.
Right.
And so how do you handle that when, I can share with you what I do, but I want to hear what you do. How do you handle that if you identify that up front or any time during the process in this relationship, that it's just not going to work and it's not going to be in alignment with the truth of who you are and how you want to do business? How do you handle that, Jenny?
Well, I've actually had it, a couple of times where it got to that point where I had to really fire the client, if you will. I always saw the project through, but then I said to myself, I'm not going to work with this person again. And there was one in particular, it was right after my father had died. And I talk about it in the book. And it was an agent who we'd done a staging, it was a hands-on. The seller was supposed to prep. It was a divorce situation. He didn't do one thing. And so the team gets there and the house wasn't ready. But there was never anything like, hey, thanks for doing it anyway. Thanks for muddling through. It was just these demands that there's one too many plants in the kitchen and there's this and there's that. And she disrespected the team. She disrespected me, our process. When I got our furniture back, his cat had hair all over these brand new chairs, even though they weren't supposed to do that. So to me, that's just a big red flag that this person doesn't respect the process of the company. And we're not, even though we serve realtors, we serve investors. So in the hierarchy, I always kind of say, like, if realtors are here, we serve them. We're not like on the same plane. And it's not about, them, being able to boss us around, but that we are in business to serve our customers. Right. And so when I was feeling, if you feel disrespected by that, your inner knower is going to tell you, like, this is not a good fit. And so I actually felt very, very liberated being able to say, I don't want to work with you. And I didn't do it in a nasty way. I just said, I like you as a person. I just don't think we're a good fit for working together based on how you want to run things. And she wanted to control everything. And maybe there was a lack of a trust factor. I don't know. But you don't have to stay with a client just because they've used you before. You can say, I'm unavailable, or this is, I think we're not a really good fit for working together because I need better communication and I'm not getting that. So it's, depending on how you handle it, it doesn't have to be this big negative wake. And she was surprised that I fired her as my client. I didn't use that word, but I said, I like you as a person. I don't want this to wreck our, casual friendship. And, you have a way you like to do things and it doesn't fit with what I like to do. So good luck. and she ended up leaving the industry a short time later and moved out of state. So I don't think that was because of me, but it was just sort of an indication that I made the right choice, that she wasn't somebody that was committed long-term and had, she really had other stuff going on.
Absolutely. And I think that's, you made a good point, Jenny, and that is with some people, like I don't even really go through the process of telling them why, because depending on their personality, they may be confronted and then they're going to start arguing. Well, you did this, and well, I don't, it's like that's, if I've already drawn the line, I've pulled the string, I've in my mind fired you or not hired you, then, I find it best to just say that, based on everything that you've told me or everything I've seen, I don't think we're a good fit. Usually that's in the beginning of a relationship, whether it's design or staging. And then depending on if someone you don't like, you can refer, or someone who you think would be a better fit, like I can refer you to someone who you might be a better fit. You give them 2 or 3 names.
Yeah, I mean, you can recommend somebody else. I mean, you could also just say we're not available, or we're not doing that facet of our business anymore. Yeah. I have an agent now that, every time I send a quote off, she's asking for a price reduction, and I'm like, I'm pushing back because I'm like, I'm not in this to lose money. And what she shared was, people are struggling, they need to sell their properties. And I'm like, that's fine, but I'm not going to struggle because they're struggling. That's not my model. I'm not obligated to lower my prices, by a certain amount, because our profit margin per staging, it's not that huge. So that's why we have to do such high volume to meet the needs and the demands of my, what financially what I have to cover. And so when people do that, it's like, I didn't price gouge. I didn't overinflate it. And my pricing is fair. And in my mind, I'm thinking, like, if you don't like this, you can go get another quote and you'll know that my pricing is fair. And I'm just tired of having to explain our value. And I feel like,
exactly. And based on what you deliver too. And when it comes to that too, I do the same thing. I'll say, I'm not the cheapest. I'm not the most expensive. I'm fair for what I deliver. Can you find someone cheaper? You probably can. The old adage, you get what you pay for.
Right.
So a delicate way, and I know you've done this, Jenny, that I will make that work, because some even, certain groups, it's part of their culture to negotiate. And
right.
I can't do that. I'm not a discount staging professional, but here's what I can do. And so we'll remove something. So,
right.
I learned that in my many classes on the art of negotiation is never give something unless you take something away.
Right.
And
we can scale back, or, if you don't have the budget, we can always scale back. The first room I'm going to give up is going to be this one. And then they're like, you're doing the old takeaway. And then usually they'll come back, because we're not talking thousands of dollars. We're talking maybe a room might be a few hundred overall between the items and the staging time assigned to that. So, but it's just, that when either I want to work with people that see the value in what we do, that are excited to work with us, that know that we're going to get them the results that they want. I'm not interested in working with somebody that's going to question, how I can arrive at a pricing. And, I love it when they tell me what my price should be. This price is too high. It should be lower. Well, what are you basing that on? Because you don't run a company like I do. You have no clue what my expenses are. And so, don't be afraid to stand up for yourselves. And we teach in our pricing course, and we've talked about it many, many times, don't lead with price. And the first time somebody pushes back, as Kat was saying, you don't want to drop your price. You can always eliminate an area to meet their budget.
Yes.
Don't immediately cave on, okay, I can do it for cheaper, because I'm sure one of the things we do in the master's course is we take a look at expenses and overhead and break that down. And then we talk about how much, let's say your overhead is $2,000 a month. I'm just throwing a number out, and you do 10 stagings a month. That means you have to have $200 in each of those projects just to cover your overhead. And what overhead would be your insurance, your courses, your events you attend, your marketing, your licensing. If you have warehouse space, storage space, your vehicles, all those things have to be covered with your overhead. So if you're not allotting certain amount of money per staging throughout the year doing that, at the end of the year, when you do your summary and taxes and so forth, you very well could be running in the red instead of in the black, because you didn't account for all the expenses you have. So it's good to take a look at that. And again, these people who never run a business don't have any clue. We happen to have a large warehouse. I pay an extremely amazing rate on that. I mean, if it were anywhere else, I wouldn't be able to afford it, I'm sure, for the size. But I know that my nut to crack on a normal month is like $17K between the warehouse, the truck, the insurance, the staging team, the things, if I know we're going to be out there, that's the amount that goes out the door. And not to mention all the purchases that we have to continue to make. So, as you start a business, Kat has what I would call, you purposely downsize into what I would call more of a boutique staging company. She doesn't want to have all the massive warehouse and overhead. And as glamorous as that seems, like I know stagers get so excited, even designers, all the pillow wall and look at all the furniture and you get to shop and do stuff. Yeah. And you own all that stuff. And when it breaks, I told my guys, a piece of furniture has to stay out at least 6 months for it to turn into a profit stream. Because let's say it may be a little bit less. Let's say I pay $600 for a couch. Well, that's 6 months because I'm going to rent it probably for $1,000, lease it out for $100 a month. And so after 6 months, now it becomes profit. Well, if they bust it in the second or third month and I'm toast, I now just lost $400. And so you have to really analyze your business that way to see, am I covering my expenses? And, you don't have to be the massive, largest company out there. So, as you plan, be strategic with your business planning. I sort of fell into it. I just was like, I didn't know when I got started, I didn't know if staging would take off. In fact, I was told multiple times, we don't need you here, go back to the Bay Area. The market's hot, we don't need to stage. And, a lot of discouraging messages. And so I just sort of started plodding along. I didn't know if what I was doing was right or wrong. And my business grew. And each phase has been organic, meaning I haven't, taken out any loans or anything like that for the company. But I fought having a warehouse because I didn't want, it's like having another job, that it's like having a whole nother thing to have to manage. And I didn't want to do that. And I was sort of forced into it. And I'm happy that we have the warehouse, but it's just I go up there and it's just like, oh my God, there's so much stuff that has to be put away, so much stuff that has to be repaired, so much stuff to get rid of. And it becomes like this overwhelming, never ending task. And so,
Yes, we're having our third consecutive blowout sale, and I rented 2 huge units just to do it. And then we're donating whatever we don't sell. We'll put a few things back, but we're donating whatever we don't sell, because it can very quickly become, and especially when you want to make every stage perfect, and no, it's not design. That's part of my problem. It's like, well, it's not perfect. I'm going to go out and get something that is perfect for it. And
I know.
Smart buyer, so I shop smart, but it's still, you have to, you're paying overhead to house it.
It's even, you think about that. 2 years ago or so, we were still doing, was contemporary's always in. We were doing a lot more, I would say, more like kind of glam, kind of the chrome and more sparkly stuff, the bling, and all of a sudden it just shifted. And everybody wanted the mid-mod. They want the organic. They want the boho. So I'm not going to get rid of this stuff because I know it'll cycle back around. And there's always use for it. Like we're going to put it in a property that's a $3 million property that she sent me pictures of what she liked. And our stuff will be suitable, perfect for that. But it's not going out as often. And so then it requires you to purchase more items than that you can use that are suitable for what the expected buyers want in your market. So the other thing you have to be really good at is your market research, know what's trending. Yes. And in the buyer trends course, we talk about what a micro trend is versus a macro trend. And a micro trend, it would be a design trend that comes and goes really fast. And so that could be a color, it could be a particular style, it could be something that's here and then gone. And then a macro is going to stay for like 3 to 5 years maybe. So it's going to have some staying power. So you want to invest in things that are going to be longer lasting. I have, when it comes to colors, for example, Kat's jacket is very on trend right now, that mustard yellow, oranges, you're going to see a lot of color like this fuchsia pink. You're seeing a lot of colors coming in. So we're investing in accent things like pillows, artwork. I did buy accent chairs that are mustard yellow, emerald green. I've got some pink ones we're using today in a boho house. It's that kind of that blush pink with the cognac couch. So this is the first time putting them out in a house. I'll see what the response is from the client and the buyers, but they're not such a huge investment that when those trend out, I can't just, get rid of them and then replace with something else. But it is, it's a great industry. It's fun, but it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Yes, it is. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces to put together. So you have to love it. If you love it, like they say, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Absolutely.
To that, not only do we need to look at the market, but being strategic as a business owner, and again, whatever kind of business that you have, you can determine your next step and what you want to channel, manifest as the next step. And for us, we are channeling, and and it's all coming to fruition. We were featured on HGTV. We've basically been doing luxury homes this year. So I'm not ready to get rid of the kind of farmhouse and the lower end yet, because we just did $1 million plus that was high end on that. So the linen sofas, matching linen sofas went with the decor. But I'm strategically eliminating things that will not fit into $1 million, $3 million, multi-million luxury homes, because that's the play area I want to play in.
Well, and $1 million is not $1 million like it was like even years ago. Yeah. But I hear you. We have rural properties, so they're horse properties and cows, and so I go buy a bunch of cow and horse artwork and things like even shoes and things that are going to be.
And we do too. We've got Magnolia right near us. We just did one that's 3 acres. The home, I was shocked that it was $1.5 million, because the house didn't look like that. But we're looking at 4 acres, so with acreage and rural and things like that, it's much different. However, the buyer is still, if they are paying, $1 million to $5 million, whatever, and $1 million, they have a different expectation. So
they do. Absolutely. And I think as you grow, so the book really kind of, if those of you that decide to purchase it, it's basically sort of like the 25 things 25 remembrances, reflections, and revelations of a pro home stager. And there are things that I wish I would have known, or things I've learned along the way, and things that I hope help other people to, as they go along, that I'm not the only one that's experienced this. If you've experienced it, like, man, I had the same thing happen to me. So that you're not the only one, or things to avoid. And so there's, lessons in the book as well. My journey is mine, but I'm hoping it will help other people who want to get into the industry understand what what it's all about and what it takes to grow. And so I put, like in the book, my very first vacant staging, which ended up in the newspaper, and it was in the Sacramento area, because that's where
you cringe today, right?
I wish I pulled it. It's in the book, and I don't. The book hard copies are coming, but it was a property in the Sacramento area, and nobody had been doing vacant properties up to this point. None of them were being staged. And so this was the first one, and it was a vignette. So it was in a retirement community. The property was vacant. The one next door was vacant. So I staged this one. But back then, so we're talking in, 21 years ago, a little chair, end table, a tree.
Right. So for those of you who don't know what vignette staging is, and maybe you're in another industry, we used to do it back in the day. It was kind of the, birthing of staging, where you would, and we get some of our realtors, or affectionately called stagers, do it. So you lean a picture across the fireplace, put a chair with a little throw and a greenery, and you would call that staging. And so vignette staging is what we call them.
And it worked. The house sold, but I didn't, when I got started, I didn't have money to go buy stuff. So I remember I took stuff out of my house, and my mom gave me a little rug that was super undersized. I took a purple chair and an ottoman out of my bedroom and tried to squeeze that in the bedroom door, and I couldn't make it fit. So literally in the bedroom, it was my purple ottoman, but not the chair, a hat box, a Michael's tree that maybe had like 7 leaves on it, puffed up like we're going to the show, like we're going to make it look good. And then a piece of art, and then a throw, and the house sold, and everybody was really happy with it. It was the first, foray into that whole experience for that entire market. But I look back and I'm thinking like, oh my God, it was just, I would never do that today.
What was I thinking? So fast forward. And so for those of thinking of getting into staging today, HGTV, it's been kind of a double-edged sword, because, it's not real. It doesn't cost what they say it costs, because they had so many donations. It's fast forward. It took 2 weeks, not 2 days, all that kind of stuff. However, it has brought to light and to a consciousness of staging and the importance of staging. But as you know, Jenny, the expectation now is, I tell my clients also, when they want me to reduce prices, like, it's going to look like a model home. And I don't compromise that because you want to pay less. I'll do less rooms. Those rooms are still going to look like a model home and have a wow factor. And I think, as you know, the expectation has grown as the industry has grown. So what does that mean? Well, it means a lot more investment in inventory and being
Absolutely.
creative. I know we have some stagers I've done myself, create your own artwork, all kinds of things, to help you augment with that, buying smart on marketplace, redoing things, things like that. But the bottom line is it needs to be pulled all together and look like a model home, because that's what folks are expecting today.
Well, yeah. And so the house that I mentioned earlier, that is $3 million. So it's a 10,000 square footer. It was staged. First, a listing agent that no longer has a listing. So the interior was kind of a lightish gray color, so it was neutral. She had the sellers paint maroon on either side of this fireplace, and also in the kitchen, and then added teal, also paint. Horrible. And then the staging was, because this house is, it's a ways from Denver, and it is acreage and so forth, but it's not a country home. But they put like this country hutch and this undersized sectional, and so I mean nothing. It just completely missed the mark. And so, that's realtor was removed. The new one came in. They're painting out the maroon. They can't paint out the teal. And then we're going to come and stage it properly. And so my message to stagers has been lately, like, if you can't deliver what the client expects, and more importantly, who's the client? They're paying you, but what's what the buyer expects. Who's buying that house? What do they want to see in that property? You need to know the demographics. and if you cannot deliver that level of staging, pass, because it'd be better for you to say no than to affect your reputation. Or partner, pass it off to somebody else, partner with somebody that has the things that you need, and so that you can do a proper job. Because to me, when a staging isn't done to standard and it looks like that, or just has a vignette stuff, I think it negatively impacts the overall industry. It affects all of us. Because people go, well, that's what staging is. I mean, I could, and so they form opinions about it, versus when it looks fabulous and it's to standard for the property price point, the elements in the property and so forth. Then it's like, wow, they really do an amazing job, and that helps increase our value. But if they think we just grabbed any old stuff from like a Salvation Army or thrift store from our own houses and threw it in a house, that's why they come back and go, well, you can do this room thing. Don't you just take it out of your house? Or, they don't see the value because we're not showing them.
And that's what education, I think education is so important. I stress in all of my communication that all staging companies are not created equal. Okay. And I'm not saying, oh, others are bad. It's like, I try to educate my realtors and sellers, this is, look at my portfolio, here's, in fact, I did a segment on it for Now Media TV. There's 5 things you need to look at when you're looking to hire a staging professional, one of which is training, which you can get through Jennie from stagehomes.com. Portfolio, look at their portfolio. That's going to tell you, what kind of inventory they have, how they put it together, and are you a good fit? I tell folks, if you're looking for traditional, I'm probably not your staging company, because I don't resonate and I don't purchase things that are traditional. Now, that's not a huge segment. I think most people are, going into the transitional, which of course we do that. But if you're looking for traditional, and if that's a design client as well, I will pass, because I don't do traditional. So, every staging company is not created equal. Look and see who's the fit for you based on their credentials. It's a pretty unregulated industry, Jennie, as you know, and that's why education is so critical. I think I have almost every credential from Jennie's school that I can get, most of them that fit me. I'm close to taking the Airbnb one. It hasn't been a fit for me, but I've been doing some beach houses and Airbnb. But, get education, get educated, because if not, it's just a hobby, and you want to be able to bring the best to your clients. And I think you can only take your talent and, oh, I've always been good at this, and people say I'm really good at putting things together. Well, take that talent and put some meat behind it, because you want to be able to tell sellers and clients the why, even your team, the why. When I make a change, on a stage, my team appreciates that I tell them, let me tell you why I made that change.
Right.
Now, is there more than one way to stage? Absolutely. It's a creative, it's an art. But if there is a design element, a spatial element, a color element, then you're absolutely going to do correction on that. But get yourself education. So go ahead, Jennie.
No, I was going to say, and that's really crucial, is to always be taking a look at your own work and then tweaking it, adjusting. So, our bedrooms, for example, I really had to push the team. I wanted 2 pieces of art behind the nightstands where the lamps are, when we can do that are companions, because I think that's the focal point. And I had to repeat it a few times before they finally got it. Like, this is what I want. You guys need to be doing this. And now we're focusing now, like bathrooms, like we need to up our game in bathrooms. So layer the towels, do things, because sometimes you just want to get in and we're rushing, or we have a lot to accomplish. So the team, gets a house put together and it looks good, but there's these little fine tuning things that don't always happen. So that's when I'll kind of say this looks great, but the picture's too high, or so I'll send them things, because I'm really out in the field. I mean, like today we're staging 3 models, homes, and it's not like for a big production builder. It's a community that's new. And so we have 3 different floor plans. We're doing 3 different, color schemes and styles. One of them, actually, last week, the client wrote and he said, "You're never going to believe it, but they found a dead guy in one of the properties we were going to stage." And I don't know the details on it. He won't know until after the properties sell, because he doesn't want to have to get into disclosing all that. But you just never know what you're going to find. And so, I would love to be on site with them, but I have 3 stagers. I have, 3 movers that are on point today. So I don't have to be in the field. And that's in growing a business. If you are a business owner that wants to be hands-on all the time, then as you grow, you'll have to then find people that can handle the back office things, and vice versa. Because I consider myself, in the real estate terms, like the rainmaker. I'm bringing the business in, I'm closing the sale, I'm bringing the revenue in, and the team is doing the installation. And I still love doing the creative part. I don't not enjoy it. I miss sometimes being out in the field, but my best use of my time and effort is on the computer, on the phone, securing business, doing the marketing that brings in the business. And that's really the key, is to know where your strengths are too.
Absolutely. Know your strengths, know what lights you up and what you love to do. Myself, I'm on every stage. Very rarely am I not. Maybe hands-on occupied, but I create the design. I don't pull the design. I have a great gal now that does warehouse and pulls it and packs it. But what lights me up is seeing my vision come to fruition. So that's what lights me up, and that's why I'm a boutique, more as you call it, a boutique company, and that's what lights me up. So back to kind of some of your talking points. One of which is never sacrifice your life. When you look back, it's the memories you make that matter, not how many houses you stage. So whatever, again, whether it's staging or whatever kind of business, as business owners, you wear the hat of having to do everything: bring in the business, find the business, market the business, build the business, quote the business, do whatever the application it is, whether it's selling insurance or staging homes or designing homes. But within that, it comes a time, hopefully pretty sooner than later, that you need to delegate the things that don't light you up as much, Yeah, like where is Jenny, her, strengths, she feels her strengths are in the marketing, which my strengths are marketing as well, but I've chosen to do it all.
Well, you also have, I know Jeff helps you with some of that. You're lucky you have a spouse, you can do the cool graphics and stuff.
To Jeff, yes.
Yeah,
yes,
and I think that point is more about, like, a business is there to support your life. It's not there to take over your life. And there will be times when you are out of balance, that you're really focused on growing, but you don't want to stay there. And there's always going to be another opportunity. There's always going to be another phone call that's going to come in. Don't miss life because you're building a business. Because, and I, talk to this with our kids too. One of our sons, who's in real estate, he'll oftentimes forego coming to family things or what have. I have to work. And I'm like, you have to take time for yourself too. And life is not all about work. And in his mind, he has a goal to achieve a certain thing by a certain age. And once he gets to there, then he'll be able to have, he has plans to do other things and be able to relax. But, we're never guaranteed getting, you're not guaranteed.
You're never guaranteed tomorrow. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So,
and it takes letting go and releasing and knowing, knowing that it's okay to put, a priority ahead. Because, when it comes down to, again, our values, if you say your values are family and love and, whatever, but, on the pyramid of action items, you're spending time doing the opposite, that's where we get out of alignment. That's where we feel something just isn't right, and we feel imbalanced, and we don't know what it is. And that's because we're not living, we're not putting on our calendar the things that, very things that we say are important to us. And I know family is important to you, Jennie, and I'm sure it is to Stephen too. You know, yeah. He's young, he's focused, he's, you know, he's fortunate he has you to kind of reel in a little to say, hey, I know you want to be here, but you know what, that's still going to get there. Just take a minute. You know?
It's also because it's like, it's not just him making a memory, it's us, the other people like myself, making a memory with him. And so if he's not there, then I'm missing him, I'm missing out, and he's missing out. And so, and that's just an example. You know, the other piece of it is, as you grow your business, you're going to get, you know, there'll be people that will come along and, you know, maybe for a time you collaborate on things and you're, you know, working together, and then that goes for a season or what have you. You never want to feel, you know, like you made a mistake or you have regrets. And I was honest in the book that I do have some early on with the time commitment I made as a trainer, for example. You know, I would be out 2 to 4 weeks a month, usually just 2 weeks, but there was times it was 3 to 4 weeks teaching. And it would be like, you know, I'd have to fly in on a Monday or a Sunday and then teach. I'd fly home. So sometimes it was only 4 days gone. Sometimes it was 5. And I look back and, you know, thankfully John held down the fort, but I love teaching. So I did it because I really love teaching other people, but I didn't have to be that person. And I took it upon myself to think like, I have to be this person. I have to be the reliable, loyal one. And honestly, it never occurred to me to say no. And that's something that we all need to have in our vocabulary, because we need to say no to set our own personal boundaries, because it wasn't up to me. It wasn't my company. You know, it benefited a lot of other people, and I was happy to teach and train. But when I look back, you know, you can never get that time back. So be stingy with your time.
Be stingy. Be intentional.
Yeah, be stingy.
We're running close to 30 minutes here. I'm posting this. One of my favorite slides, Jennie, I'm sure you have it. Whenever I teach continuing education classes, I post
it. So funny.
Yeah. So if you've ever thought about being a stager, and you fall into that category there, or if you haven't thought about it and you do fall into that category, you might just.
I even think, like I said, you can even just put the word entrepreneur. You know, anybody who,
absolutely
right. You know, anybody who wants to, you know, they don't want to march the beat of the same drum that everybody else is in the corporate
world. Don't want to work a 9 to 5, you
right.
know, on the hamster wheel. And I think so many people today are really stopping and looking at their lives and saying, you know what?
How did I get here?
Yeah, how did I get here? I'm not really doing what I really want, what really lights me up. So if anything, I would love, you know, anyone listening to this or watching it to think about that. What lights you up? And you can start little. It doesn't have to be an all or none.
Right. Like what are you passionate about? I mean, the great thing about our industry is that even though it might be on our minds, you know, all day long, physically you're not out staging 40 hours a week. Typically, you would really burn out. And so, you know, we teach if you're working anywhere from like 8 to 10 hours a week as a stager, that's like a 50,000 income. 16 to 20 hours would be 100K, and that's real income that you're taught how to get there.
And you can work a lot less and make a lot more being smart.
Right. And so it's a part-time business to make a full-time income. The key part, of course, is the marketing side of it. You have to get the business to support that goal and that volume. But it's not one where, you know, you get to set your hours. And so if you want to take a trip or you want to, you know, not go into work one day, you know, you're the one, you're in control of your calendar, which I love. So, you know, that whole flexibility piece of it is really great being an entrepreneur. The scary part, of course, is the risk. And because if it is to be, it's up to me. If it is, you know, something you want to do, it's you know, you have to make it happen, or it's not going to happen initially. So you really need to have a strong passion for it, a really good plan for what you're going to do. And then mentors. I think having people that you can come alongside that have been where you've been. And that's kind of what the book is sort of, you know, if I could sit down with somebody and tell them, these are the things I've experienced that you either want to do or you don't want to do. And, you know, put that in there. And, you know, just there's a lot of funny stories in there, too, that I hope make people laugh, because it's a people business. And sometimes you come across things that you're like, I wasn't expecting that, you know, and you just have to laugh
about it. If nothing else, if you're not a stager, pick up the book for the behind the scenes funny stories. I'm ordering mine today. Well, I'm going to wait for the hard book because I want to get the hardcover and have you sign it, Jennie.
Okay.
Yeah. but I was glad I was able to turn this into a PDF and post it. So True Confessions of a Stagerpreneur by Jennie Norris. And can they get that today, the paperback, on Amazon?
Yes, you can buy it on Amazon. It's also on Kindle format. So either one of them is available.
Okay. And how soon do you think for the paper or for the hardcover?
I'm working on the form because I did the softbound because it was more affordable for people. But the hardback one, you can't just say I want to change it to hardback. You actually have to reformat the entire file, which I didn't realize. So anyway, yes, I'm working on that. They don't make it very easy. It's not an 8.5 by 11 book. It's a 6 by 9, which is the standard size for most of these books. And anyway, so it's just been.
So do you have to change it to another dimension to make it hard?
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, so the page dimensions are different. So you can't just upload the same 6 by. I don't know why you can't just upload the same 6 by 9 because it's the same size. So I don't understand their whole thing. But I learned by doing and trial and error and making it work.
Yeah. Is that through KDRP or?
Yes, KDP Publishing.
KDP. Yeah. So go to Amazon. You can get True Confessions of a Stagerpreneur, and I'm excited to get mine.
And there's also on that same thing, there's Marketing Made Simple. That book I originally wrote in 2012, and then I've been updating it. And I learned with this Amazon, if you guys, anybody who's going to self-publish, even if it's something you had from before, don't say that you wrote it, 11 years ago, because that's what it says on the thing. People, oh, that's old. It's not old. It was totally updated. So then in my description, I was trying to change it. Like, it's 2023. I updated the whole thing. So keep that in mind that I don't want people to think it's old because it's been.
Oh, so I have to order the updated version because I've got the older version. Okay.
Yeah.
And typically on Amazon, it will say, because I buy books probably weekly, it will say updated version. So just make sure you get the updated version of the marketing book. This is one of my favorite quotes, and I think it kind of speaks to what we talked about. If you're on the hamster wheel, if you're not loving what you do, etc. And it goes like this: stress is caused by being somewhere but wanting to be somewhere else. Be present. So be present with your passions. To Jenny's note, sit down and put on paper what are your core values, and you just might find
what you just said,
something else you want to do.
Well, and what you just said, I mean, I literally have goosebumps on my arms because it's really, when you think about that, that's really, really true in any kind of life stress. So, we have choices. You make choices to be someplace, to be doing something, and we all have choices to do something different, whether when it's work related or what have you. And so, but it's that leap of faith that I think people are afraid of, and then that holds us back. And then is that cycle of stress. So free yourself from that. Take a risk. I have to say, with the whole digital world, and so there's so many resources online now that can help people who want to start a business. There's even like score.org where these retired executives help with people with business plans and so forth. And there's no cost for that. So there's lots of resources. And of course, IAHSP, the International Association, I consider us like the business support organization for staging, design, and real estate in that wheelhouse. But there's lots of other entities that are able to help support somebody's, entrepreneur journey. And I will say that the generation, they say the Gen Z, which are the ones that are, they're probably in their early 20s to, and they're starting to get into the workforce more, and they're getting the houses, but they're the ones that they call nomads, and that they're not going to stay rooted in one place very often. But what I really liked about this generation is that they want to change the world. They really want to make a difference. And so these are ones I don't see being the corporate soldiers, the ones that are going to go in and spend 40 years in a place. They might learn something, but they're going to probably start their own company and be this business entrepreneur. And we have a whole generation that's kind of geared that way. So it's going to be interesting to see what the next 2 decades brings.
It will be. It's exciting. Thank you so much, Jenny. Appreciate your time. Can't wait to read your book. And thank you, everyone, for watching or listening. And as always, stay positive, stay hopeful, stay connected. And thank you so much for connecting with me and Jenny today. And if we haven't met, I'm Kat Tulinos with Tada by Kat, Next Level Staging and Design. And we're going to replay this next Friday and have a new guest the following Friday. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone, and we'll see you soon.